Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel for a video today that I would say is a little controversial, but I did a poll on my Instagram and this was by far the one that everyone wanted most, so I will give the people what they want. What video is that, you may ask, if you did not read the title or anything else on the screen? That video is 7 books that I hated. Hate might be a bit strong of a word for some of these opinions I have on these books, but hey, you know, if it's what draws the people in, then I'm gonna use it. I would like to say 2 disclaimers before we jump into what I have for you today. One of which is that I'd like to remind you that you asked for this, okay? These are my opinions and I am voicing them because you asked to hear them. You asked for me to be a hater and that's what I'm here to do. I don't think I'll really get into spoilers, but I am going to be talking about these books in length. So, to be safe, I wanted to warn you, I might talk about some spoiler related content with the books I'm discussing today. 1, these are my opinions, don't come for me, you asked for it. 2, spoilers, maybe. Anyway, let's get into it. First 3 books I have are, for some reason, thrillers. I love thrillers, but it just so happened that this is the way the cookie crumbled, the page turned. I don't know, whatever saying you want to say. First up, I have The Paris Apartment by Lucy Foley. Now, let me start by saying I really enjoyed the guest list and I really liked Midnight Feast. However, The Paris Apartment, Lucy, girl, I don't know what you were doing. I listened to this as an audiobook and I believe I was on a road trip or something of the sort, a long drive maybe, and I accidentally fell asleep at like 45%, woke back up at 60%, nothing had happened. Not a single thing of importance or of note happened. And I DNF'd it. I DNF'd it because I was like, I actually can't do this anymore. This is so boring. And also, I could not tell you a single thing that happened in that book. All I know is that she was in fact in an apartment in Paris and there was like something going on with the walls. I have no idea and I have no care to have an idea. I don't want my qualms or questions to be solved. I'm just never going to pick it back up again, which is disappointing again because then The Midnight Feast came out and I was like, oh, okay, we're back in our bullshit with Lucy Foley. So it was disappointing though. And speaking of disappointing, book number 2 is The Fury by Michaelides, my very favored one-hit wonder. His one-hit wonder being The Silent Patient, because that book I loved. It wasn't perfect by any means, but I listened to the audiobook and I really enjoyed it and it got super popular. It was super popular on TikTok, Bookstagram. It was just, we were on a downhill after that because I read The Maidens and that was fine, and then The Fury. Anyway, The Fury was so irritating. Not only like the story as a whole, but the main character who is telling you the story the entire time is annoying. I hated him, and that's part of the point. Yes, all of the characters are written to be insufferable, but I think there is a point it surpasses where it's just overkill. You have to give me more than that, you know what I mean? I will say the only redeemable quality about this book was the way in which the story was told. I thought it was very unique. It did feel like the main character was telling me this story like over a cup of coffee, or like we were sitting at the bar and having a little drink. I imagined like that one picture of SpongeBob where he's at the diner and he's holding like the cup of coffee, and I think this is when he says like the "I lost something once" line. That's what it reminds me of. But besides that, insufferable. I hated this guy. He was so annoying. One of the most annoying parts of this book was that it constantly did this thing where it would psych you out almost. They would tell you a story for a chapter or 2 and then end it with, but that's not how it really happened, or that's how it would have happened if so-and-so had made this choice differently, but that's not how it really happened. I'm sorry? That would have been cool once or twice. Over and over again? I'm tired. Let me rest. Please, just tell me the goddamn story. Number 3 is also a very popular book, and it got super buzzy on TikTok. But don't come for me, okay? Don't come for me. It's The Housemaid by Freida McFadden. The Housemaid is just Verity in blue clothing. Maybe that's a controversial thing to say, but that's my belief. I don't like to go around and say that the writing isn't good. I do think that there is good and bad writing, and I do think it is a skill to be like honed and practiced. Maybe I am okay to say that the writing wasn't good, because it wasn't. It wasn't good. I found it very cringy, at times very juvenile for an adult thriller about adults. I was compelled to finish it, and I did finish it, and I thought it was interesting enough to finish it. It really does just remind me of Verity, and Verity is by Colleen Hoover, and I didn't like that much either, so I'm not compelled to read the rest of the books in the series or any more by her. Number 4 is another book that a lot of people really liked, but just didn't work out for me, and that is Alone with You in the Ether by Olivie Blake. I did also read the Atlas 6 by her, and again, fell flat for me. I am willing to continue to give her a try, because I own Masters of Death, and I've heard really good things about that, and Editing Trinity, what is the name of her new release? Right, thank you. I'm interested to read that. Alone with You in the Ether is one of those books that I feel like tried so hard to be profound that it swung the pendulum the other way, that it was indecipherable and hard to understand. It felt very murky to me, like I had to fight my way through the novel to understand what the story was, what the characters were saying, etc., etc. Speaking in so many metaphors and euphemisms and stuff like that. Maybe that's a reflection of my own intelligence, but I don't think it is, and it just wasn't for me. But like I said, I'm willing to continue to give Olivie Blake a chance, and I will, with Masters of Death and whatever that new release is that I can't remember the name of. Number 5 is going to come in a big surprise for a lot of you. It was a big surprise for me, okay? I was just as surprised as you're about to be. Number 5 is Good Omens. I know. This is a crazy one. Everything about this book I should have liked. This was set up for me to enjoy it, and by all means, I should have. I really should have. God, was this boring. It was really boring. I'm sorry. I just could not force myself to slog through the rest of this book. I did give it a try. I tried to read it physically. I tried to listen to it, and nothing was keeping my interest. It was so boring. I'm so sorry to myself and everyone out there who had high hopes for me. It just did not work out. That being said, I am still interested in watching the show. I will not be giving the book another try. I did DNF it, if I did not say that already. I am interested in watching the show, but Neil Gaiman, when I catch you. The last 2 is where we get into the nitty gritty, alright? So bear with me here. Number 6 is It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. I don't have much else to add to the discourse around Colleen Hoover that hasn't already been said. This is one of the ones that I don't care if you think it's good, you shouldn't. Sorry, it's bad. It's a bad book. This is one of the worst representations of domestic violence I've ever read, I've ever seen, I've ever consumed. Crazy. Absolutely crazy. And maybe that's subjective, and I'm sure it is, as most opinions, all opinions are. This was unbelievable to me. I hate this book. I really do. And this is one of the only ones that I can firmly say that about. Not only was, in my opinion, it glorifying a lot of the things that come with the traumas of an abusive relationship, it also had horrible marketing. Absolutely horrible. This is not a romance. Trust. The characters were poorly written. The writing itself is atrocious. I could go on and on. But if you weren't derailed from the simple fact that half of the book, or maybe not half, maybe that's an exaggeration, okay, a good portion of the book is her diary entries addressed to Ellen DeGeneres. If that didn't deter you, maybe you should read this book. Maybe you will enjoy it. Who knows? Also, I don't know if it was just me. I haven't really read a lot of the reviews on this book. I think the way Lily, the main character, treated Atlas, her other love, that's not abusive. I think the way she treated his poorness at times was so icky to me. Also, her name is Lily Blossom Bloom, which everyone brings up, but I just think it's so funny. Like, yes, girl, Lily Blossom Bloom, the florist. Like I said, I don't have much more purposeful critique to add to the discourse that hasn't already been said, so I won't waste my breath on it. Number 7 is where some of y'all are gonna get real mad at me, okay? And I would just like to remind you, you asked for this. And hear me out, okay? Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuinston. I do, in fact, hate this book. I'm not a fan of Casey McQuinston. I will not try to be a fan of Casey McQuinston anymore. I have tried several of their books, and can't do it. Can't do it. I will not be continuing to try. I read One Last Stop, liked it a little bit more than Red, White, and Royal Blue, but I still didn't like it. It was written in such a way that really just made me recoil, really made me cringe. One thing I really, really hate about queer books, as a queer person myself, is when I feel like the rhetoric and the writing and just the way the characters talk or act feels childish in a way, because it feels infantilizing to me. And again, maybe that's subjective, maybe I'm projecting. The way that the characters were written in this book, who, if I remember correctly, I read this book a while ago, they are mid-20s or something. They were acting like they were 17. Another big thing is that this book has a lot to do with tension and stakes. A lot of that tension and a lot of the stakes are relying on taking a massive risk and then facing the repercussions. But then there are none. There are barely any repercussions for making these life-altering choices in such a public, large scale. So it feels, the stakes feel kind of useless. I won't talk about the politics much because I can utilize suspension of belief, even though this book kind of wanted me to obliterate my belief. I don't care if Texas is going blue. In a romance novel, at this point, anything is possible, so who am I to say? I think politically, it perpetuates some harmful ideology and idealization of politics and political figures. And I also disagree with the notion that the representation is good. I don't think it is, especially with Alex. I think there were some really poor, under-researched choices made by the author that made me feel icked out. All that aside, I would like to say my reading experience with this book was phenomenal. I read it during quarantine in 2020 over Zoom, where we read it out loud and I read for Henry. It was so fun doing it that way, kind of like a theater book club. So it was really fun to do it that way, and I did really enjoy at least that part of the reading experience. I only picked 7 books to talk about because I didn't want to go in too hard, and also there's not that many books that I have genuinely hated. If I don't like books, I usually DNF them, so I don't feel like I'm wasting my time when I could be reading something that I really do enjoy. There's not a whole lot of books that I've actually hated. Even some of the books on here, I wouldn't go as far as to say I hate, except for the last 2. The other ones were just unfortunate dislikes or DNFs. Anyway, that's everything I have for today's video. So if you want to see more consistent content from me, because I only post on here every other week, make sure you follow my Instagram for more current updates on what I'm reading. I'm trying to do more little reels on there, maybe some little vlogs, but you know, I have some things in the works, so don't worry about it. If you want to see more from me and my channel, make sure you like, subscribe, all that good stuff. But yeah, I will see you next time. If my neighbor's dogs don't stop barking, I'm gonna crash out. I'm gonna crash the fuck out.